Well, a new act making its way through the House of Representatives is doing this, seeking to put strict limitations on how much the Biden administration and the IRS can know about your personal finances. Under the Prohibiting IRS Surveillance Act, the IRS would be prohibited from implementing any new reporting requirements for banks or other financial institutions. But the question now, will it pass? Drew Ferguson is a Georgia Republican congressman, co-sponsor of this bill. Congressman, thanks so much for coming on. We do appreciate that. Looking at this bill for the viewers here, I want to read just a part of it here. It says this, quote, the Secretary of the Treasury may not require any financial institution to report the inflows or outflows of any account maintained by such institution except to the extent that such reporting is required under any program or other provision of law as in effect of January 1, 2023. So in layman's terms, what is this bill going to do? What can it do, Congressman?
Well, first of all, it prevents the IRS from snooping into your bank accounts. Americans should be trusted to do their taxes. There are audits, there are plenty of provisions to make sure that the audits are done, that people pay their taxes correctly. But the one thing that we don't want is we do not want the IRS spying on our bank accounts, looking at the transaction between family members. And look, we know that they pulled back on this rule or this effort in the last Congress. But the same people are in the IRS, the same people are in the Treasury, and we know that they want access to Americans' bank accounts so that they can come literally snoop in the cushions on your couch to come look for your money. All we are saying is with this is that the Secretary and the IRS cannot do this. This is the purview of Congress, and we're not going to allow unelected bureaucrats to come spy on our fellow Americans. That's what this bill is about.
The Inflation Reduction Act, if you remember, one of the elements inside of that is that if you would have to report essentially any transaction, an American would have to report any transaction over the amount of $600. So would this act take that away?
Yes, look, we already have provisions in place, and if you do transactions over $10,000, that is something that's got to be reported. But the truth of the matter is that you don't want these smaller transactions, particularly in a cumulative manner, to come, for the IRS to see that. The IRS has no business looking at how much money transfers between a husband and a wife, between a father and a child, or between friends. That is not what we do not want the federal government spying on our bank accounts. Also, we do not need another set of regulations in the banking industry. Number one, that they aren't prepared to implement. Number two, that's going to make the cost of capital, meaning the cost of borrowing money, go higher. This is not what Americans signed up for. Look, if you look at what the president has said, President Biden, when asked if he was going to change anything of what he's done over the last 2 years, he said no. And all you have to do is look at the budget and what he is suggesting and where the administration is going. And all we know is that the war on the American middle class and the American worker is continuing by this administration. So the Americans don't want the IRS snooping into their bank accounts. Americans don't want the IRS to be intrusive or political. This is a tool to stop that.
Let me move on to this next story that many are talking about. There's a lot of criticism with the Biden administration and the handling of the crisis on the southern border, especially now since 2 of those 4 Americans were kidnapped by cartels last week, were found dead. I wanted to play this for you. This is Attorney General Merrick Garland on that situation.
Look, the cartels are responsible for the deaths of Americans. And we are fighting as hard as possible. The DEA and the FBI are doing everything possible to dismantle and disrupt and ultimately prosecute the leaders of the cartels and the entire networks that they depend on.
Congressman, do you agree that they are doing enough? What are your thoughts on the matter in deterring cartels?
Look, the administration has not done enough for 2 years. House Democrats have not done enough for the last 4 years. And to say that they've now found religion right at this moment, listen, this is a matter of political convenience. They know that they're losing on crime. The Dems know that they're losing on the border issue. And so now they are reverting to policies that we know work and keep Americans safe. And it's political convenience. They touched the political electric fence on this. They got shocked, and now they're moving away from it. But listen, until they secure the border, they're going to continue to fund the cartel's operation. It's speaking out of both sides of your mouth. You have to secure the border. You have to put deterrents in place, be strong on border security, and go after the cartels that should be labeled terrorist organizations. And so the Biden administration has enabled the cartels to enrich themselves and to declare war on America. We cannot stand for that. Listen, anything the administration is willing to come to the table and help House Republicans do, we welcome the effort, but I think you just need to understand the motivation of the administration right now. It's not what they truly believe, it's political convenience. However, we'll take whatever help we can get on this.
I want to close with this, if I can, and pivot to censorship and of conservative speech specifically, and especially with Newsmax. That was a major talking point at CPAC this year. The event featured multiple panels and speeches on the very issue in front of thousands of people who attended. What are your thoughts on that? Perhaps folks that have DirecTV are not able to watch the conversation that you and I are having right now. Do you think that censorship is out of control? Do you think something should be done? What are your thoughts on the issue?
Yes, censorship on all forms is out of control. America and our democracy and constitutional republic work best when we have a neutral arbiter of information, and that should be a free press. Unfortunately, we have seen the administration try to control the press. We've seen the press acquiesce to the demands of the news media. Here's the other thing that's really important to point out. This week, we will pass a bill in the House of Representatives, H.R. 140, that will extend the Hatch Act to social media platforms. That means that bureaucrats in the FBI and the Department of Justice and other agencies cannot act politically to suppress free speech on social media platforms. This is a fix. There's a loophole in the law, but we're going to extend the Hatch Act to ensure that Americans' free speech is protected. It's another promise the Republicans have made, and it's one we're going to keep.
We'll leave it right there. Georgia Congressman Drew Ferguson joining us live from Capitol Hill. Congressman, thank you.
Thank you.